Well, I first had the pleasure of getting to know Dick when I was a lowly staffer intern for then Congressman John Jenrette. And when I was about 19 years old working for the congressman, I got sent to Dick Elliott's office one day, and that was when I first met him. And one thing I'll always remember is how kind he was towards me, even though I was just a college student working in a congressman's office. He seemed genuinely interested in me and was just such a nice guy and set me at ease. And that was my first encounter with him, and I feel like we've been friends ever since. That was somewhere around 1976. We later had the opportunity to serve together in the legislature. When I was elected to the House in 1991 in a special election, Dick was already there, of course, and so I got the pleasure of serving with him in the House for just a year and a half or so before he moved over to the Senate. And then that started a relationship that was one I'll always be fond of and always treasure. A very close working relationship where he and I both were on the Marlboro County Legislative Delegation and the Dillon County Legislative Delegation. And that lasted from 1992 when he moved over to the Senate until I quit in 2010 after about 20 years. And then he decided to hang up the cleats not long thereafter. But he is an amazing man, a true friend, and somebody that I love and admire. Dick and I had a common interest in trying to improve the highways around our districts, and so as a result, we worked together frequently on everything from Highway 9, which he is intensely interested in for good reasons, and I'm convinced that one day Highway 9 will be 4-lane all the way from the stoplight at Cherry Grove to I-95 in Dillon County, and that'll be good for our state. It'll be good for tourists, and when it is, people can look back and thank Dick Elliott for that happening, I believe, because he's tenaciously stayed after that his entire career. But he's such an unselfish guy that he also recognized that Highway 38, which runs parallel to 9 heading to the coast and also goes through Marlboro County, needed some improvements, and he and I worked together on that. And then as I-73 began at its very earliest stages, Dick and I were both very involved in the earliest meetings, and from that point, throughout our careers, served together on I-73 committees and had a common interest in trying to develop interstate access to the Grand Strand and to improve the economies of Dillon, Marion, and Marlboro counties with interstate access. And while that project has not come to fruition yet, it's certainly still on a strong path. And Dick's early leadership, I think, was critical and very, very helpful. And one day people will be riding on that road. There were so many other projects, but when I do think of the working relationship with my friend Dick Elliott, it often takes my mind back to the little town of McCall. McCall is a small town on the North Carolina border in Marlboro County. It's a great little town of wonderful people, but because of its geography, McCall sometimes tended to get left out or felt left out. After a couple of redrawings of lines, McCall found itself in Dick Elliott's Senate district and in my House district. And through the years, Dick and I worked on a number of water projects, recreation projects. I remember a fun story and memory that I have that Dick, I think, will remember and smile about too. In those days, state legislators, if they wanted to, and if they tried hard enough, could get a surplus vehicle from the state for a small town like McCall. And I give Dick all the credit. He gave me half the credit, but the truth be known, he really pulled it off. The little town of McCall needed what they call a brush truck for their fire department. Not a big fire truck, but basically an equipped pickup truck that they could use to take to smaller brush fires. They couldn't afford it in the town of McCall. They have a low tax base. Well, Dick Elliott managed to get them one from the surplus property of the state. It was an older model truck that the state didn't need anymore. As he always did, unselfishly, he publicly and privately gave me the credit, and I appreciated that. You always do when you're out there in elected office, but he and I both knew that it was his tenacity that pulled it off. But what I remember so fondly is the day that the truck came available. Apparently surplus property called Senator Elliott and said, "Now your truck's ready for McCall." And he got it, and he brought it to my law office in Bennettsville. And he pulled up in the backyard and he tooted the horn. He said, "Come on, get in this truck. We're going to deliver it to McCall." And so he and I get in this surplus fire truck and drive it to McCall. And when we pulled up at the fire department, we had let the chief know we were coming, so they were all lined up there waiting on us. And here we come, and as we're riding up, I remember Dick looking at me and saying, "You know what, partner?" I said, "This is what it's all about, really helping people." He said, "I just wish we had a big old country ham in this truck with us, because this is bringing home the bacon." And it was just a fun memory. We pulled up there, and those firemen couldn't have been happier or more appreciative. And of course, they put it to good use. But it speaks as just a glimpse of Dick Elliott's spirit for helping people and for public service. He genuinely is one of the most committed people to just simply trying to do for others. I think he carries out the notion, frankly, the notion that the Bible speaks about when it talks about doing unto the least of these. Dick Elliott genuinely cares about helping other people. And I think he always viewed public service and serving in office not as what could it do for me, but what can I do for others? And it came through time after time in his service. One of the interesting memories is how politics changed while Dick and I were serving. We were actually there at a time where what label you had on you didn't particularly matter as much to people, but the type service you gave and how you acted and how you voted mattered more. We both were there during a time where, with the rise of the Republican Party in South Carolina into majority status in the House and taking over most, if not all, of the statewide elected offices, basically folks like Dick, rural white Democrats who were centrist people, moderates who cared about things that the Democratic Party cares about, but yet knew how to work with others and tried to steer the ship in a middle of the road direction for the good of all. People like us more or less became dinosaurs in public service and started to get pressure, which Dick began to get heavily from folks in Horry County, that you better switch parties and become a Republican or you're not going to stay there too long. I personally think that whole commentary is tragic about politics, because I think we need more people who are willing to vote for the person and not for the party. But what it says about Dick Elliott is that he was himself, and he didn't particularly care about labels, and he was going to do what he thought was the right thing for his district, regardless of all of that. He never succumbed to that pressure, and I admire him and respect him for that. But more so, he never asked anybody when they came to him for help, what party are you in, or what church do you go to, or anything else. He just tried to help them, because Dick Elliott embodies everything good about a public servant who's there unselfishly for all the right reasons. I respect him. I admire him. I consider him a true friend, and I genuinely miss the days I had with him and with Ann and with Rick and others. And one thing about Dick that I also want to add is that he was like the ubiquitous guy. He was always there. You had a public event, whether it was a ribbon cutting or whatever the event may have been, Dick would try to be there. And people care about that. They matter. That matters to them. But when Dick couldn't be there, you'd look around and there would be Ann Elliott standing there representing him, or Rick Elliott being there. And when that couldn't happen, Dick would call me and say, "Partner, how about put a word in for me and stand up for me at so and so event? I can't be there." And we did that for each other for 20 years, and I just cannot state the love I have for that man and the respect I have for him.